Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tisa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
ay mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
brother me fele sama,
me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama.
mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama. Ayo.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama,
Ayo me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama.
me fele sama.
gotkushTV presents Sankofa, The Future of Black History, a unique Black History Month online series exploring all dimensions of time as we chronicle the Black past, command the Black present, and empower the Black future. Workshops include The Future is Black, Why is Black History Under Attack? With Shakara, We Create Value, The Ingenuity of Enslaved Africans, with Robin Walker, ancestral calling, agriculture, and the Apobo Library Initiative with Aya Eleni, quantum field theory as African heritage with Asar Imhotep. For full information including dates and registration, visit gotkushTV.com. We have made history. We are making history. There is history still to be made. Sankofa, the future of Black history. A Black History Month series not to be missed. Sankofa, the future of Black history, is proudly sponsored by Black History Walks, #1 for Black History tours, films, and talks in London. For more information, check blackhistorywalks.co.uk. Tendai Mwari, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai, Mudzimu Mukuru, give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Lafus, we're here, kings and queens. It's going to be a powerful, powerful show today. So as you come through, welcome. Make we know say you're there. Hit up the chat section. Yeah, hit up the chat section. Make we know say you're there. And it will be beautiful to know where you are listening from, okay? Where you are listening from, yeah, as well. And I will let you know from now that we are hoping to have some interaction later on in the show. So we'll be inviting you onto the panel for those who wish to come through. But throughout the show, you can feel free to use the chat. And if you want your comment to be read out, you do not have to super chat, although we welcome you to do so. Feel free to simply at gotkushTV, if you want your comment question read out, and we would be most willing to do so. So please like up the video and share the link far and wide. You must know somebody else we want to listen to this show, yeah. And as you know, kings and queens, our topic today is France must go. Uprisings in West Africa. France must go. Uprisings in West Africa. Now, I'll be honest with you, family. I had a mind, and maybe in future I will follow this mind. Yeah, I had a mind for name the show France for Gwe. Yeah, France for Gwe. I'm saying uprisings in West Africa, but I decided, that not to complicate the language barrier any further, especially because we're dealing with a lot of French-speaking Africans at this moment in time. I'm saying, so we're going to introduce and slowly acclimatize, to the patois among the international African community. Do you know what I'm saying? But, for all intents and purposes, today's show is entitled France for Gwe. Yeah? Uprisings in West Africa, kings and queens. And so we're going to be joined and assisted in this by a very beautiful special guest and co-host who will be joining me this week and next week. So I'm going to introduce her shortly. But as I said to you a couple of weeks ago, family, I'm going to try and begin each of our shows, particularly in our Zivanai slot, with a reading from the ancient wisdom of our ancestors. It's ancient spiritual wisdom, indigenous spiritual wisdom of our ancestors. And previously I read from this beautiful book called The Sacred Gospel of Hunhu Ubuntu. And so I'm going to open with a brief passage from this as well, which I think is most appropriate as it relates to this particular show today, family. And so it is under the chapter of self-reliance, waving one's own flag. Yes. And it says, if one doesn't help oneself, one will soon die. Death is when one's life is stolen or taken away through dependency. A dependent voice is never heard. If heard, is soon ignored. One who is self-reliant and strong in character speaks with a clear, loud voice, a voice powerful enough to turn stone into bread, despair into hope. His independence is a source of inspiration to others. The sparkle in his eye reflects inner peace. One who is dependent speaks with a squeaky voice, a frail voice. So frail is ferried away by the breeze as soon as it forms on the lips. There is no sparkle in this one's eye, only defeated dullness. The shoulders of such a one resemble drooping banana leaves, inspiring none. Being independent, self reliant is Hunhu, Ubuntu, Ma'at. Dependency is not Hunhu, Ubuntu, Ma'at. Taken from the sacred gospel of Hunhu, Ubuntu, which is, accumulated wisdom, from our Shona ancestors, which are mostly in Zimbabwe. The terms Hunhu and Ubuntu speak to peoplehood, yes, and the natural order of the universe, kings and queens. So I hope we take some inspiration for that, and I hope we understand how that relates to the topic of today's shows. There are many things happening in the world, and as African people, we have to prioritize what is mostly directly affecting us and what is most important to us. And so with that, let me just bring on our guest and co-host for today. Greetings, Empress Kushti.
Greetings, brother. Greetings, family.
All right, kings and queens. So let me just explain to you what's going to be happening, for the next couple of weeks. This is a 2-part series, okay? This is a 2-part series, okay? Today is part 1. And in part 1, during part 1, we're going to be hearing from our sister Kushti, who will be delivering a presentation for us, breaking down some of the basic foundational information that you need to know about Wagwan in West Africa, particularly in the nations of Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Niger. No, sorry, Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Mali, as well as Gabon. Okay, not to forget Gabon. And so this is basically going to just be like the information that you need to know at a baseline level to be able to engage the conversation. Okay, Sister Kushti delivered a presentation on the Black Betterment podcast, yes, with Brother Rap Raven. If you're not subscribe to the Black Betterment podcast, yes, please go and do so, because our brother is having some very, very important conversations. And so I heard our sister's presentations and invited her to take part in our 2-part conversation here on gotkushTV also. Okay, and then next week, Sister Kushti is going to join me, but she's going to join me as co-host specifically next week, because we will have a panel. In fact, let me show to you the panel right here now. Yeah, we're going to have a panel of Pan-Africanists from around the world to provide analysis. Yeah, so today we're giving you the basic information that you need. Next week, we're going to delve into analysis. Okay, and this is the flyer for our show next week, the 31st of October. And our guests are Brother Leader Bandaka, Sister Affiong El Affiong, and Brother Sekou Kele. Yes, Auntie Affiong is in Nigeria. Brother Sekou is from Liberia, but currently residing in Canada. And Brother Leader Bandaka is residing in the UK. We're going to just engage in some analysis of Wagwan, based upon the information that Sister Kushti shares with us. And so you will be able to ask your own questions, and me and Sister Kushti are going to be grilling our guests also. All right. So that's what's going to be taking place for the next couple of weeks. Okay. But it's important that we make sure that our brothers and sisters, our people, because sometimes geopolitics is very difficult to stay in tune with. And our sister Kushti has done us a great service, yes, by collating the information and putting it in one place so that we can get just a basic understanding, of what is taking place. So, Sister Kushti, just introduce yourself for the people, and let them know who you are. So those who are avid listeners to Zivanai on gotkushTV will have heard your voice before, I'm sure. But just give them an idea of who you are, where you come from, and where you live.
Bless up, family. I'm Sister Kush or Empress Kushti, depending on where you see me. I own a business called Kushti Cosmetics. I've definitely been around in the Pan-African circles and offered support or help or of input my business in those areas. And I'm just a love of us and our people. And yeah, that's just the basis of it at the moment. If you want to find out more about me, go to all the popular socials and you'll be able to find me on gotkushTV.
Give it facts. Sorry. Give it facts. All right. So yeah, once again, kings and queens, gotkushTV. Yeah. Our sister is a business owner, and yeah, man, make sure you get your gotkushTV from gotkushTV. Sorry, make sure you get your cosmetics from gotkushTV. Yeah, you know, we believe in the support and promotion of Black-owned business here on gotkushTV, and there's been many recent events that have highlighted for us the need to engage in the purchase of cosmetics from ourselves as brothers and sisters, family. So do make sure you check out gotkushTV, gotkushTV, KUSHTY Cosmetics on all your social media. Right, Kushti, before we get into this, because many people this what moved you to put this presentation together?
As I said, I'm definitely a Pan-African, not by choice, but from heart. And it's just innate in me. And to be honest with you, to see what's happening in regards to Africa can be very confusing, especially through Western media. But it intrigued me to see these young African brothers taking charge in a real way. And this is not, things that we've seen on TV. This is not a movie. This is happening in real life. And to me, it's more interested than any movie could even create. This is better than any Hollywood movie. And it's
100.
a real life happening. And it's African brothers, what it seems at the moment, taking control of their countries. And the reason I think I was so interested in it is because we all understand that in order for us to actually liberate ourselves, we need a base, we need a Caribbean and Africa to be independent and sovereign and independent of these Western leaders or colonizers. And to see that they're actually attempting to do it after we in the diaspora complain so much that Africa's not doing anything and they're actually doing it. I wanted to see it. I wanted to document it, and I wanted to shine a light on it.
100%.
To encourage others to look into it, to also follow it. And it gives a sense of pride, especially recently, of the things that I'm about to mention in my presentation.
All right, family. All right, giving thanks, Sister Kushti. And just so people get an idea of Wagwan, brothers and sisters know that we hosted an event with our good brother Kemi Seba, who resides in Benin, earlier this year. And so I want to give people a sense of Wagwan. Yeah, one of the nations in question is Burkina Faso. Okay, and is Niger. And so our brother Kemi Seba traveled to Niger a few weeks ago. And so just to give you a sense of the energy and the vibration on the ground, what is actually taking place, this is what happened, a snippet of what took place when our brother visited the nation of Niger and shared his energy with our people there.
French Beninese activist Kemi Seba, known for his strident anti-Western stance, spoke to thousands of people in Niamey on Thursday evening in support of the military regime that emerged from a coup in Niger. Since taking over power in a coup since July 26, the military regime has been criticizing France, which has 1,500 soldiers in Niger. Every people has the right to taste freedom. Every people has the right to taste independence. Every people has the right to regain its dignity. And if France doesn't want to allow Africans to breathe, we're going to force it to listen to us. We're a new generation, a generation that does not fear blows, a generation that does not fear sanctions, a generation that does not fear death threat or persecution. The generals of Niger have engaged in a tug-of-war with former colonial power, demanding the departure of these soldiers and of the French ambassador to Niamey, Sylvain Ité.
Le problème, c'est que ce n'est pas l'impérialisme qui est fort.
The problem is that it's not imperialism that is strong. It's the traitors at home who are strong. It's the traitors at home who are many. It's the traitors at home who are selling Africa to imperialism. But we say to them, Draman Ouattara, Patrice Talon, Macky Sall, Sissoko Mbalo, and all the others, your treason will soon stop. The diplomat left Niger on Wednesday. French forces involved in the fight against the jihadists will do the same by the end of the year, French President Emmanuel Macron has announced.
The new Google Pixel 8 Pro, super powered and super pro with Google AI and the best pro.
Powerful.
Sorry for that, brothers and sisters. I didn't intend to become an advert for Google at that point, but I saw it go. And these things. So again, that was just to give you a sense of what's happening on the ground, family. And as we will get into next week, there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of areas for questioning and all kinds of different things. Okay, but we're gonna get more into that next week. This week, we're really gonna just try to give you some foundational information. It doesn't mean that you can't ask questions and make inquiries. Feel free to do so. And if you want your comment or question read out, please at gotkushTV, and we will read it out, and you will have the opportunity to come and join us live on the panel a little bit later on as well. Okay, so right, for now, however, I'm going to begin by sharing Empress Kushti's presentation. And Kushti, feel free to take it over when you're ready.
Thank you, brother. And thank you for that introduction. That was much power needed from Kemi's ever. So we'll go in that same spirit. So yeah, this will be my, as Brother Shakara said, a presentation just with a few basic knowledge of what's going on and what has been going on previously to make us go up to this part. So as you can see, it says French must go, aka French must go. So I wanted to start with the reason why France has why there is this energy and this anger towards France. Some of this information you might already know, but I just think it's good to understand what has drove these people to our family to just finally be fed up. So I'll start here where it says France atrocities. So in the late 19th century, countries like Niger had been colonized by the French. These African countries became independent after the Second World War. But it has always been said that unlike the other colonizers, France never truly left. In the 16th century, France was the third biggest slave traders. In the 1800s, 80% was ruled. 18%, thank you. In the 1800s, 80% of Africa was ruled by their own. By the 1900s, 90% of Africa was ruled by colonizers. The French trade, or the countries that France went on to colonize, was a region known specifically, not only, but the one that we're going to focus on now is a region known as the Sahel. And as they acquired each country in this region, this was known by their own, so by French people, as the killer trade, the African apocalypse, the heart of darkness. So these are kind of the titles that themselves gave this kind of trade. There's been documentations of as they tried to get these countries as they colonized these countries within the Sahel, that their own soldiers had deserted because of how inhumane their treatment was of African people, which I think is really telling because this was at the time of slavery. So for actual French men to think that this is going too far is, I think, very telling. And even when you hear of accounts from countries in the Sahel, when they refer to the French, they were saying there's quotes of saying that just the sight of the French flag was terrifying, because as they did these terrible atrocities to the African people, rape, pillaging, abuse, hanging, maiming, and the list goes on. It was just pure brute force. So just to show that, you know, slavery was terrible, but there seems to be, with the French, there was just something even more sinister with them. So by 1962, France then decided to roll out a regime called France Afrique. What is quite interesting, or a bit of trivia, is rique is actually the French word kind of for money bank. So if you kind of put that together, it's kind of like Africa's French money bank, or piggy bank, excuse me. So again, it just shows you that they don't hide nothing. And all they saw Africa, or the Sahel, the areas that we're focusing on now, was just a piggy bank, hence France Afrique. So 14 countries in Africa use the same currency, and it's called the CFA franc. It was created before African independence, and it was actually created in 1845, yet till this day, they're still forced to use it. West African countries are forced to deposit French colonized West African countries are forced to deposit 50% of their reserve in French treasuries. Now, they say that it's actually pegged to the euro, but your sister Kushti did some Google searches, and I wanted to see exactly what excuse me, sorry, I'm not sure if I can pull this up, but I can read this to you. So I wanted to see what the currency, what the exchange rate was. So I did a quick Google, and as it stands as today, the rate is 0.0015. So if I put in 10 if I put 10 Central African francs in, it's less than 15 pence. So to say that this franc currency that they're forcing the French to use is akin to the euro is an absolute lie. And I just wanted to put that out to the family. So I definitely would suggest to the family to just do a quick Google search, and just to see the exchange rate on the currency that countries in the Sahel are forced to use. Okay, so the CFA also has another word. It's also known as the monetary servitude, which again ties into which makes sense when you look at the actual exchange rate. So even though all of these things that I've mentioned are good reasons to be fed up of a Western country invading your country, such as you have no control of your own currency, the French has control of your own ports, there's military bases in your country. So to put that in context, how would Britain feel now if Russia had military forces on English land right now, just sitting there? That would be an affront. It would be the cause for war. Yet several African countries, and it's not just with French military, have to deal with military from Western countries in their lands. We don't have the equivalent. You don't see Niger, you don't see Burkina Faso, you don't see Nigeria, you don't see Senegal, you don't see any African countries' military just sitting there on Western lands. That's something to think of. Not only that, they don't have their right to choose their own leaders, and they have no control of their own resources. So to give a pretext to this, most of the countries in the Sahel are Muslim countries, and they've been Muslim countries for centuries without any real problems. They've been able to cohesively live together in peace. So it's interesting that France's reason for having military forces in their country is to help with the so-called terrorist attacks and the jihad issue. And a jihad and terrorist a jihad issue that these countries within the Sahel had never had an issue before, ever before. So I just want to give a little fact that in 2003, there was less than 30 terrorist attacks. By the time France and their military decided to help out these countries in the Sahel, to this day, so to 2023, there has been now 7,900 attacks. So you have a country that's been Muslim, several countries that have been Muslim in peace, fine, for centuries. All of a sudden, there's a few attacks. We can discuss later on where we think those attacks have stemmed from. But at the time of concern, there was 30. And when there was 30 attacks, that was a concern in 2003 for the citizens in these countries. By the time France came in 2023, there have been 7,900 attacks. Now, are you helping or are you aiding these attacks? But while this is all going on and there is literal war and terrorist attacks going on in these lands, somehow France is very easily able to transit and commute things such as gold, uranium, excuse me, without no problem whatsoever, which is interesting because if a country's so disabled and in a state of war, and you've put your troops in Africa to quote unquote help, although we know that since they've come, the number of attacks has jumped considerably. You've still somehow managed to funnel all of the uranium, gold, and all of the other beautiful resources that we have from our land while it was going on. Yet, while this is going on, though, thousands of people have been massacred by these jihads. I'm sure we've all heard this before, but I just wanted to make this, say this part as well, is that uranium generates France's electricity. About 1 out of 3 of their light bulbs are generated from African uranium, yet less than 18% of people in Niger, for example, have electricity. So I just wanted to do, although we're aware, I just think it's really interesting to see all of these things that France are doing to these countries, especially in the Sahel. Sometimes when we hear things on the news, we hear the Sahel, and I wasn't really sure what the Sahel was or where it exactly is. So I really think the imagery really helps. So the countries you see highlighted in the light brown is the region of Sahel. Sahel is a name derived from Arabic. And when you look at the Sahel, some of you might notice that the area is actually an area that historically was really rich. You've got places like Mali, and you've got empires like Azika Muhammad. You've had Mansa Musa. You've had the empire of the Songhai. You've had the Hausa kingdoms. These were all historically in these areas and have always historically been very rich in minerals. So again, these areas have always been rich areas and have a rich history before the interruption of the West. I think as well, another key thing to look at here is that these are landlocked countries. So number one of the biggest things that screams out to me is how far across it spreads from one side of Africa, which is the Senegal, all the way to the end, which is Eritrea. Another thing that stands out as well is how these lands are locked in literally with so many other parts of African countries. So you can see on the map, Sudan is just is locked in with Egypt, Eritrea, South Sudan. You've got Chad, which is locked in with Libya, Central Africa. You've got Mali. You've got Burkina Faso, which is locked in with Nigeria, Ghana. So when it comes to ports and trades, and if you have Western countries that are governing the region of Sahel, they're also interfering with our trade, with our other brothers and sisters in other countries. So I think that looking at that and seeing how impactful it is to really interfere with these countries, you can see why it has become such a problem as it is now. I just wanted to give that backstory there, family. So we're going to be talking about the Sahel, and these are the main leaders of the countries that we're going to talk about. And I just thought it'd be nice to put up some strong pictures of the brothers and the revolutionaries and the leaders of these countries, because we don't tend to see that much in the Western media. So I just wanted to do that. And what we're going to do now is start looking into the leaders of these countries. So the first one here is Burkina Faso, and their leader currently is Ibrahim Traore. At the time of when he did come into power, he was 34, which would have made him the youngest president of a country in the world. Ibrahim Traore, I find that as I was doing my research, he's one of the main characters we tend to see because he's quite outspoken. He's been in African forums. We've seen him in the African forums with Russia as well. When Russia did the Russia and African forum, he was very vocal. And I definitely would encourage the family to YouTube that video. It's a sight to see when he's sitting on a round table with all of these other African leaders, and he's just stone cold looking at them in the eye, and he's preaching to them about no longer being the Western puppets. And it's very powerful, and he's a very powerful leader, and he definitely is not afraid to speak his truth. So that's the leader of Burkina Faso. Then we've got the leader of Mali, Colonel Assimi Goïta. Again, family, what you're going to notice with some of these things as well, when I go through my presentation, is that, of course, for some reason, I can't get an exact date of birth. So hence why you've got 39 to 41. I know it's within that region. Depending on what article you look at, his dates vary. So I've got some information on Assimi Goïta, and hopefully I'll be able to pop it onto stream. So just bear with me, family, and I'll get that up for you.
All right, kings and queens, while Sister Kushti is doing that, it is for me to just let you know that you can ask questions in the chat by @gotkushTV. Use the @gotkushTV, please, if you want to ask your questions. And I will be sharing the link at the conclusion of Kushti's presentation, so you can come forward and interact with us. All right, Kushti, you ready?
Yeah, I am. I think I've found it now.
All right, cool. So we're getting there, family. You know what I'm saying. So
We
yeah,
are, yeah.
right. So
Thank
I
you for
hope
bearing
you're
with me, family.
no problem, no problem. So I hope you're learning something so far, kings and queens. Yeah, this is an entirely important presentation, and so we're gonna bring up Sister Kushti's piece of information right now. Hold on there. As we go through. Okay, there we go.
Okay, brilliant. So I just wanted to get some information about the leader of Mali. So in June 2021, Colonel Assimi Goïta was sworn in as an interim president. Goïta led the revolution that removed elected president Ibrahim Boubacar. In August 2020, he became vice president in a civilian-led administration before leading a second coup in May 2021 and putting himself in power. So he has been in power since 2021. Also, I wanted to express kind of the things that he's already set in place as well, which I think is equally important to understand these leaders as well. I'm not going to go so much into their background because I know next week we'll have panelists who will definitely be able to do that for us. So I'm just going to do some brief little facts that might be able to help us understand him a bit more. So Mali recently decided to kick out all 12,000 UN peacekeeper out of the country, which is another key thing that I want us to hold on to as well. He's also signed a new mining law code, which will allow the military-led government to increase its ownership of gold concessions and recoup what he says is a major shortfall of production revenue. So again, he's now he's also has, which I liked as well, has decided to make French no longer the national language. He's also created a Senate as well. And as it says here, he's denoted French from an official to a working language. So that's a few points on the brother there, which I think was quite interesting. Is my slide still showing? Yes. He was also raised in a military coup, as his dad was the head of of that particular military. So he was raised within a military group. And the reason why I say that there is because I understand that as a family, we're quite weary of those who've within the military, especially the military who have been influenced by either the French or the Americans. So I do want to make that as a key note. I'm sure we're going to talk about that a bit later on. But that's just a brief introduction to the leader of Mali, Colonel Assimi Goïta. The next leader country we are on is Guinea. There's no need to change your TV, what you're seeing, or your screen. What you're seeing is what you're seeing. That is his wife. This is Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, who was sworn as a president following a military coup in September 2022, and he's aged 43. Colonel Mamdini Doumbouya became the head of a special forces group and was a part of the French Foreign Legion, a section of the French army for highly trained officers. His wife also used to serve in France as the French police. Namade Doumbouya met his French wife in 2005, shortly after his arrival that same year. So again, we're just talking about facts. So I'm really trying not to put my own opinions in this. But again, these are our the current the current leaders who we're trying to figure out, are they a revolutionary? Is this a revolution, or is this just another coup? And all we can do at the moment is go by their current actions and gain some sort of background information about them. And I will say, family, out of all of the leaders, this one was the hardest one to get information on, honestly, especially his wife. And I think it's necessary again to point out the fact that it was part of a foreign French legion. He sworn alliance to France several times prior. And his wife, well, she was a part of a high police force as well. So when I hear that background, it doesn't put him in much favor. Although the things he has said since I've been doing my research on him publicly and on a public forum, so we know that we've had the UN and the UN, and we've also had the Russia and Africa Union as well. And he's been saying all of the things that we've wanted to hear thus far. He's also promised to leave and he's also promised to have a democratic vote in 2 years. So again, that's something that we like to hear, because what tends to happen a lot with our African leaders in these countries is they tend to go in power and they become dictators. They stop any opposing views to even try, and they also tend to stay in power for a very long time. So again, that's the brief background on the leader of Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya. Again, we need to know the backstory, and the backstory doesn't look too promising. But again, I'm still keeping hopeful, because we've had, it's not the first revolution leader we've had that has not necessarily been with a sister. And so I'll keep my heart open-minded thus far, especially because the things that he has been doing, like, for example, announcing that the UN should leave Guinea as well. These are all promising things. So we'll keep a very, very extra close eye on this one, I think, family. Okay, so this one here is Abdurrahim Tishani. Sorry, excuse me. I've got him aged at 62, and I've seen other articles which have aged him at 63. Niger is the one that we've had most media coverage on, which is very interesting. I will say, though, another thing that is very interesting about Mamadi Doumbouya is that I don't really hear any pushes from the West in regards to him coming into power with a quote-unquote coup, which also, again, doesn't help me in regards to assessing this brother and his true intentions. Because when we think of what's currently happening in the Sahel, we mainly hear about Niger and how France has refused so many times to leave at the request of their leader and of their people. There's a bit more to say on Niger, but I think I'm going to leave that a bit more for the end for the questions. So I'm just going to go to the next one, which is Gabon. Now, Gabon is the most recent. Gabon happened around last month, September 2023, General Brice Oligui Nguema. Okay, so this leader seized power from Ali Bongo, whose family has led the oil-rich country for more than 50 years, 56 years to be exact. Oligui was part of a presidential guard, which means that he actually protected Ali Bongo, who he literally just ousted out of power. So, which is very interesting again. What is also interesting is that he's the cousin of the person that he ousted. He, again, it's a bit controversial there. There's claims that authorities in the US have actually supported him for a few years in preparation for him to take over the Bongo family, which is also worrying. I just think that perhaps they wasn't ready for Ali Bongo to go just yet. I think when you're looking at the other countries that I've just mentioned who have previously done their revolution, I've not heard the kind of backlash for Oguli like I've heard for Burkina Faso, or like I've heard from Niger. In fact, I don't hear nothing really from the French in regards to the fact that there has been a coup and Oligui has now taken over, which kind of adds to the rumors of the US have been preparing him for a few years to take over. So with Gabon, you tend to see that people are much more skeptical about this particular country and this particular leader. Where is he doing this for the sake of his people, or are the people, i.e. the US, who have apparently been supporting him for years and grooming him to be the next takeover? If I was looking at this as the West, and I could see 4 countries have already decided to kick us out, and you could see that there's tensions in Gabon, it would be something that the West would do. It's very West-like to perhaps orchestrate this and make it look like that this is another revolutionist, when in reality he could just be another puppet ensuring that the wills of the West actually work. Again, Gabon has not, the leader himself has not actually said anything that I could say that is not the same as Ibrahim Traoré from Burkina Faso, Mali. So he's not actually said anything that has made me question him or worry about him as yet. But the information gathered on his background, you know, again, I'm going to keep a close eye on. And I think we should all keep a closer eye on this leader as well. So those are all of the countries that are currently in the Sahel, which are now doing either a coup or a revolution, depending on how you see it. And we've also before done a background of what has currently been happening, what had happened in the past with France's atrocities into these African countries. Now I want to focus on a group called the ECOWAS. The symbol that you can see here is their emblem. So at times when you're looking at the news and things like that, especially in Nigeria, you'll probably see this emblem, and definitely watch out for this emblem when you are watching out and keeping an eye on what is going on in regards to the Sahel. So what is ECOWAS? ECOWAS is an economic community of West African states. And I think that it's important to highlight that it's for economic community of the West. So basically, the point of ECOWAS is for 15 countries in West Africa to come together for economic reasons, to strengthen each other economically, which is interesting because ECOWAS at the moment is not necessarily doing anything in regards to strengthening their brothers and sisters, the 15 members in West Africa, but they're more tend to do something, they more seem to be military based. So I don't know what a group which is supposed to be about economics, I don't know what they're doing leading military. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. So these are the countries of ECOWAS. I don't know if you can see the small writing, but if you can't, it's fine. I can read them out for the family. So ECOWAS presides of 15 countries in West Africa. So these are all the highlighted 15 countries. So the ones in red and grey, they're all included. It's all the 15 countries. 8 of these countries are French-speaking countries. 5 of the countries within ECOWAS are English-speaking countries, and 2 of the countries within ECOWAS are Portuguese-speaking countries. What is interesting as well is that the countries that we've just mentioned as well, I don't know if the family can see, but they're similar to a lot of the countries that I've just mentioned who are now engaging in a revolution. All those countries that I mentioned are also countries that are within the ECOWAS membership as well. So those countries are actually within those memberships. Just to read out the countries to you, just to give a bit of I'm not sure of how can people, I know that sometimes families not necessarily looking at the screen, but listening, I'll read out the countries. So you have Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Togo, Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Cape Verde, Guinea, Bissau. So that's a lot of countries that initially it's a great idea that they've all come together and they've grouped together for economic growth. But unfortunately, ECOWAS has not been doing that when it comes to what we're talking about in the Sahel. So as we've seen, the French have had their paws all over the countries that they've colonized, and all of the countries that I've mentioned previously have wanted the French to go. Most of them have now declared that they want the UN to come out of their country as well. Most of these countries have banned French as their speaking countries. Countries such as Burkina Faso is now at the stage of creating power plants in order to be able to process their own raw materials. So before, instead of like what I was saying before, where amongst this jihadi attacks that these countries are having, and France is supposed to be helping, France has been helping themselves to our minerals, taking it and then charging back the country for the minerals and making their wealth, and leaving the countries that they've taken the minerals with nothing. So, for example, Mali could get their gold. I think it was Burkina Faso was exporting their gold by force by France at 80 cents per kilos. 80 cents per kilos. Since they've cut off the French, they've now decided that you won't be just coming in and taking our gold and giving us 80 cents per kilo of the gold. You're now going to be buying the gold from us. We'll be holding the gold here, and we'll be refining the gold by ourselves and using our our own power plants, and we'll now be charging you the market price, which is $200 per kilo. Things like that are the things that makes me proud. It's the things that kind of gives me hope with these leaders, because not only is it just what the media might show us as them as, I don't know, gun shooting wild Africans and just getting aggressive and now just picking on the French as what a lot of the Western media is showing us as. Yes, they're kicking the French out, but they're also adopting infrastructure for their country in order for their country to actually succeed, for them to actually get benefits from these minerals, which to me is the first time in my lifetime that I've seen that. So these are things to get excited about and very much to look into, family. I'm nearly coming to the end of, yeah, I think I've come to the end of that. I do want to also talk about ECOWAS in regards to how they're being used as puppets from France. So as I said before, what ECOWAS stands for is supposed to be the strengthening of economics. But what we're seeing with ECOWAS is being used as a puppet. So the group of countries is getting used as a puppet to now threaten countries such as Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, those three specifically in regards to when they wanted to boot the French out. Since the beginning of this presentation, when I was looking at this, French were really pushing back. I'm happy to say now that France is actually, Niger has actually successfully pushed out France. There's a video going around where you can actually, a popular video that's going around, and you can actually see the French, they're so bitter that they're actually destroying any kind of structure or infrastructure that they have in France now that they're finally getting booted out. So you can see them literally bulldozing cars, machinery, all perfectly good machinery. And they're just smashing it all out on the way out, which goes to show how bitter the French are, and how their last result now is to use ECOWAS as some sort of army, a military army, to threaten their neighbors. Remember when we're looking at the map that, you know, these countries are very close together. ECOWAS is supposed to be a unity of these countries. All the countries that I've mentioned are members in ECOWAS. So for ECOWAS to now have combative or to have tension with their own members because France wants it is a big problem. Although ECOWAS is a group of 15 African countries, Nigeria has the most voice within ECOWAS. When I've looked into why that is, it's mainly because of how big their influence can be in regards to their soldiers. So if you put all of the country of ECOWAS together and put in all of their military, even all of the 14 countries would not necessarily compare to what Nigeria can put in regards to their military. So the head of ECOWAS is the Nigerian leader, Tinubu, and he is very controversial himself. And he's definitely undeniably a puppet for the West. We know that. That's nothing we have to even think about. So when you know that you've got a beautiful initiative like ECOWAS, but the leader of it is Tinubu, and he's a puppet of the West. We can see now why a group which is meant to be for economic growth is now getting used to bully and force these countries to keep their colonizers in their country, which makes no sense. So definitely, family, when we're looking into this, I definitely want us to keep an eye or listen out whenever we hear ECOWAS and hear it for what it is. The last point I've briefed on the history, and we know why, with the atrocities of France, why these countries would be ready to get rid of the French, the French. And we've actually gone through the countries that are currently doing the revolution. We now know where the Sahel is, and we understand, as the West do, that they've infiltrated ECOWAS and trying to use ECOWAS, now that they've been kicked out, they're trying to use ECOWAS as their strength to still keep their force in. But there's another force as well that we've heard a lot of, and that's Russia as well. And I just want to deal with this briefly. And I know that a lot of people are concerned in regards to Russia's influence, but on the same side, if you've been watching a lot of videos, you'll see that the countries that we've mentioned that are doing the revolution, especially in Niger and Burkina Faso, you'll see that there's a lot of support from Russia. Russia's group, there is a Russian group called the Wagner Group, and their missionary group. So they're out to loan. Basically, if you can afford them, you can get them. So they're out for, you know, you can purchase them, as in regards to, you can purchase their service. And what has happened is that in order for them to have do this revolution, they've needed perhaps some help from the West, or from Western people, and Russia, especially Burkina Faso's leader, they've seemed to have a really good relationship at the moment. When I mentioned that Burkina Faso is doing a power plant, that is because of the help from Russia. Whether it's like the manufacturing, just knowing how to do it. And this is kind of, I think, I don't know, it seems to have put our people, like there's a lot of people who are for it and there's a lot of people who are not for it. So with Russia, I say that I think that we should see Russia as perhaps just another a help in regards to moving forward with our revolution, but that's not to say that Russia is now our saviors. And I think that that's what a lot of people, when I've heard them talk about it, are worried about, whether or not Russia is coming in and just going to be the next colonizer. But, you know, I don't think that that is necessarily going to be the case. If we've got to remember, although these countries are some of the wealthiest country when it comes to their minerals, Niger in particular, these countries are some of the poorest countries in Africa. So they have had to do a hard feat at the moment, where they have decided to stand up to the West, where countries who are more wealthier than these countries can't even do. They've decided to kick them out as well. And ECOWAS, who we've just mentioned before, have put sanctions on these countries. Now, the sanctions have been let off, although some of them still remain. But some of these sanctions will be no trade between each other. And we could see that they're very locked into borders. So if you can't trade with your next door neighbor, that puts you in a very weak position. At one point, they cut off aid, food coming in. They wouldn't even let food come in. And at that point, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali has made an alliance. And they've now said, and they've said it national, that anybody who now comes and interferes with any country, all three of those countries will step in and it's a declaration of war, which is lovely to see. So I think I'm just going to leave it there for now. But I'm happy for any questions or any talkings on it.
All right, family, giving thanks, yeah, to Empress Kushti for doing the work, for giving us the foundation for this two-part reasoning that we're engaging right about now. If you appreciate Sister Kushti, Empress Kushti, show your love by just typing a 1 in the chat right about now. Just show your love for Empress Kushti in the chat by typing a 1 right about now and saying give thanks, yeah, for the information that she has just provided. We give thanks to you, Sister Kush D, and it is for me to let you also know, brothers and sisters who are tuned in, that you can also ask questions or make comments in the chat. Please at gotkushTV. Please at gotkushTV if you would like to have your comment read out. Please at gotkushTV if you would like to have your comment read out. Yeah. If you don't at gotkushTV, I'm not gonna read your comment because we can't read every comment. Yeah. So please, yeah. Now your comment can be a question or it can be a comment. It doesn't matter. And I'm also gonna share the link right about now, yeah, to anybody who wants to come on, ask a question, add, even challenge respectfully, and or ask a question in relation to the thing. Okay. Now, reminder, family, yeah. Next week, myself and Kushti are gonna be questioning some veteran heavyweight Pan-Africanists, as well as people who are knowledgeable, yes, on the conditions of West Africa. And it's very important that we do this show. One of the things that I didn't say at the beginning is the fact that we are people in the English-speaking world. And one of the reasons why it's very difficult for us to tune into Wagwan in a Burkina Faso, in a Guinea, in a Mali and Niger and Gabon is partly because of the language barrier. Yes, these nations are full of Africans who predominantly speak French. And so we are dedicated here on gotkushTV to crossing the language barrier. And this is a subject that we will be coming back to. And when we come back to it, we are going to have a panel, yes, of Africans from the French-speaking African world. Okay, so bear that in mind. Yeah, bear that in mind. Yeah, when we come back to this topic, we're going to have a panel from the French-speaking African world, from these nations and other nations in the French-speaking African world who are affected by this CFA, French neocolonialism, and so on and so forth, to break it down for us. Yeah, so just bear that in mind. This is a part of an ongoing conversation. We're not going done, yes, sir. Yeah, it's an ongoing situation, so we're going to have to come back to it with more analysis. And if you were listening to us during the month of Messiah, we had a good conversation, yes, with our brother Kayende from Burkina Faso about what is taking place on the ground and what the vibes is on the ground there at the moment. So do check that out. During the month of Messiah, we had that conversation with our brother Kayende, yeah. So we look forward to having more and more. And yeah, man, only a good translator, they're on deck, yeah, for this conversation, yeah. So it's all good. It's all well and good. Right. There's two pieces of information that I'm gonna add. No, you already said actually. One of them was gonna be the fact that the nations of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali have a military agreement. Yeah. So Sister Kush, you mentioned it at the end there, yeah. Which is that basically because when Tinubu of Nigeria declared that he was going to rally the troops and invade Niger, yeah, specifically. And Burkina Faso and Mali said, listen, yeah, touch one, touch all. If you invade Niger, you're coming for the all away. And everybody are going to come in on this thing, yeah? And so, so that's part of it. In relation to that, however, it's also necessary to note that AFRICOM, yeah, the African High Command, which is run by the United States government. And
my brother, if you give me a second, I can actually, I've got that video for you.
Okay, no problem. All right. So what?
Would you like me to play it?
Yeah, go on through. Yeah. So I was gonna just say, so go on. Bring up.
Okay, no problem. I'll bring it up.
So yeah, AFRICOM is a significant force on the ground as well. So as well as ECOWAS being really a satellite of the West, and a puppet of the West. One of the dynamics of that is the fact that their militaries are being trained directly, yes, by the American military, with American military backing and American military ideological training. And I believe that the video that Sister Kushti is going to play for us is going to explain that in a second. Once I see it, Kushti, I'll bring it forward for viewing. All right. I'm seeing your questions. The other thing that I was going to piece of information that I was going to share is that what Sister Kushti mentioned in regards to the French are going when them leave, the country, and mashing up the people, them things. This is exactly what they did in the 1960s. In 1960, when Guinea declared its independence, and Guinea, under the leadership of Sekou Touré, was the only nation to completely reject the CFA franc and all that came with it. Yes, it was literally called the continuation of colonialism pact. Yeah, and Guinea, under the leadership of Sekou Touré, said, "No, we're not having it. We're not signing that agreement." Basically, the French got vexed, and upon leaving the nation, they mash up everything. Yeah, train line, road, them rip phone out a wall, mash up building, them mash up farmland, all the different thing. Okay.
And I think it's important that you said that, bro, because some of the rhetoric that I can't stand hearing is almost that Africa was for the better with having these colonizers, and if these colonizers were still here, would be better, and because of them we're doing so much better. But that's not what history tells us. History tells us that they leave spitefully, they damage vehicles, they damage perfectly working machinery. Some of the vans and things that they were broken were that they were purposely mashing up. It was so spiteful that you could even see, and I'm definitely going to make sure I get the video up for next week. You could actually see the people shaking their heads of the waste just because they have to go. These are not people that, so to say that they help us is just,
ridiculous.
Is a video on?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it up, but it don't seem to want to show complete. Or it's there, but it's not there for some reason. I'm not sure.
Right, one sec.
What I got? I'm not even. I don't think it's you because I can see it in the background. But when I bring it to the stage, there we go. All right, we've got it. We've got it. Yeah,
you got it.
Okay. Yep. Just get rid of that restore. Click the X. So we're now black now. Yep. There we go. And you can put it on full screen as well when you're playing it.
So family, I really want everyone to listen to this. I think it's not too long, but it's very interesting. So is this Congress? Let me see if they tell us where this is. So this is at a House Armed Service Committee hearing. So yes, this is Congress.
Well, I think more specifically it's a House of Representatives. I believe it's a House of Representatives. But I could be wrong on that. But yeah, let's go forward.
Okay.
We're not hearing the audio, sis.
You can't hear the audio?
No.
Okay, one sec. I'm not sure why that is.
I'll tell you what.
I can see if I do it on another internet server. Perhaps that would be easier.
Maybe what? In fact, I'll tell you what you do. Put the link in the back chat for me. And
no props.
Let me play
you can play it.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to play that for you in a second, family. But this is an extremely important video. Yeah. The man who you're going to be seeing questioned, make no mistake about it, is a man by the name of Michael Langley, who is in fact the commander in charge of Africa. Yes. So just bear that in mind. Yeah. Bear that in mind. So we're just going to bring this video up right about now. Okay. And so listen very carefully. Yeah. Bear in mind everything that Sister Kushti has said thus far. Yeah. And listen very carefully to what is about to take place. All right. So the head of America's African Military High Command, yes, which means the military unit that America has designated to control African affairs. Yeah, really and truly. That's what AFRICOM is. And it's necessary to also note that this thing was instituted under the presidency of Barack Obama. All right. So feeling the president where only did I celebrate about, yeah, I'm, institute the thing. All right. So I'm gonna press play. And let me know if the audio is not functioning. Okay.
Chair, now recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gates, for 5 minutes.
General Langley, I have constituents that have been scattered across Africa on train and equip missions. So just ballpark, in the last decade, how many Africans has the United States military trained and equipped?
Congressman, I don't have that figure. I can get that figure for you.
Ballpark, just, how many?
Congressman, it would be a wild guess, right?
Seems like something we should know, right?
Over the years, we have trained a substantial number, especially in the Gulf of Guinea states, but including
like more than 10,000.
It is more than 10,000.
More than 50,000.
I'd say we're reaching around 50,000
okay.
at least.
And what percentage of the people we've trained end up participating in insurrections or coups against their own government?
Very small number, Congressman. Very small number.
So what percentage do you think?
I'd say probably less than 1%.
But it does happen.
The IMEC program is in force, and we've pushed a significant number through our schools across the.
Yeah, and what data sets do you track to arrive at the conclusion that less than 1% of the roughly 50,000 that we've trained have participated in coups? Because it'd be like about 500. About 1% of 50,000.
Congressman, you may have that information. I don't at this time, but I know.
Well, I know there are some, right? Like go ahead and throw up that image. This is Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, and this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him in Guinea?
By name, I cannot identify that.
Well, that guy in the middle with the big red hat, Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, that's him, with a bunch of U.S. service members outside of our embassy. And just months after this photo was taken in 2021, he led a coup in Guinea and threw out the leader. Does that concern you?
Congressman, core values is what we start off with in IMA programs.
Do we share core values with Colonel Doumbouya?
Core values. I will repeat that. Core values. Respect for humanity.
Do we share those values with Colonel Doumbouya?
Absolutely. In our curriculum.
He led a coup.
We do.
Okay, well, that's a very telling answer. In Burkina Faso, did we share core values with the leader that we trained there who led a coup?
It's in our curriculum. We stress core values. We request civilian-led governance.
Wait, hold on. Is leading coups in our curriculum?
Absolutely not.
So
civilian-led.
My question is, do we share core values with the coup leader in Burkina Faso who we trained?
Holistically, we teach core values with a respect for civilian governance, apolitical, and that's what sticks across a very high percentage in the 99 percentile.
Right? But not everybody. And I wonder how many people it takes to plan a coup. I mean, initially you didn't know how many we trained and equipped. Then you said it was 1%. You had no basis for that 1% number because there's no data set you track. Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record. Another U.S. trained soldier stages a coup in West Africa by The Intercept.
Without objection, so ordered.
And I further seek unanimous consent to enter into the record. U.S. forces trained the Guinean colonel behind the recent coup in West African country, and this is regard to Guinea.
Without objection, so ordered.
So I guess the question is, why should U.S. taxpayers be paying to train people who then lead coups in Africa?
Congressman, our curriculum harvests core values and also to be able to embolden these countries for a representative democracy.
But General, that democracy isn't what emerges. The problem is, I know you may have great confidence in what you're teaching, but when two governments have been overthrown, I guess how many governments have to be overthrown by people we train before you sort of get the message that our core values might not be sticking with everyone? Is it 5 countries? 10?
We'll continue with our persistence in assuring
But do you think it's
that
working?
they harbor democratic norms, democratic values.
Just a moment ago, you
apolitical.
said we shared core values with Colonel Doumbouya. You said that just moments ago in response to my question, and his core value seems to be leading a coup. So I don't think it's stuck. I think we should at least know how many countries we train the coup plotters in. How many is too many? Because clearly 2 is not too many, and I think we could use our resources far more effectively than doing this.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Ryan, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here. In particular, I just want to
Thank you for playing that, bro. I just, I'm not sure if you can put my screen back on of my presentation, please. So, family, I think it was very interesting what we listened to there. And there's just some key things that stood out to me with the leader of Afrika as he was stuttering and hesitating and under pressure to answer those kind of questions. Basic questions like, how many people are we training in Africa? I mean, we went from 5,000, I'm not sure it's that, 10,000, a bit more than that, 50,000. All right, we can just land on 50,000. To think that an American military don't have the numbers is a joke, number one. And when he had asked the question of how much of those 50,000 have gone onto or have been a part of a coup, he went for the lowest denominator number he could go for, which was 1%. But 1% is still 500 soldiers, by his claims, which we know is the lowest, so it's probably a bit more, that have been involved in some sort of coup throughout the years in Africa, which I think is telling. The other thing that I don't know if the family noticed is that they mentioned 2 people that we've just talked about. One of them is this guy here, Mamadou Doumbouya, and also Ibrahim Traore. Right, brother?
Actually, I think the person in Burkina Faso that they were referring to was actually the one who Traore overthrew, yeah, and that's Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, yeah. Okay. He overthrew the previous president who was elected in 2015 after the people overthrew Blaise Compaoré, who was the person who assassinated Thomas Sankara. Now, I need to clarify the date of that particular interview before Congress, but I believe I'm correct in saying that this took place prior to Ibrahim Traore taking over, and that it's Sandaogo Damiba that they're actually referring to. But I'm going to clarify that. I'm going to clarify that in a second.
Okay. Yes. But the one that please do clarify, because I don't know. I'm hoping that is the case because I'm rooting for Traore. but Mamadou, we can't. Yeah, we definitely saw Mamadou. In fact, we saw a picture of him in his red hat beret, right in the middle, pictured outside of the US embassy. But when I did give information a bit earlier on about him, we did see that he has had very strong ties with France also, and these, although history will tell us, we can't know until we go through the process of what these leaders are truly doing it for. When you hear the head of Afrika saying that we share core values with these leaders, it's a problem, because US or the West's core values have never had Africa, as countries as they've ever wanted to help, or ever saw as we had core values aligned with them. So if these leaders have core values with US, i.e., alliances with the US, that's something to worry about.
100%, 100% family. Very, very. I'm trying to clarify this piece of information in relation to exactly who he was referring to there. But so give me a sec. But one of the things that I want to highlight from the video is the focus of Michael Langley on what he called core values. Yeah. And he likened core values to democracy. Yes. So which means that essentially what they're providing the soldiers is not just resources for arms, but ideological training, which is really going to be defining what these soldiers are fighting for and in whose interest. Okay. And so that's a very, very important point. And I believe, based upon what I'm seeing here, that particular House committee grilling actually took place 6 months ago, which would mean that
He
we are
was
referring
to
yeah,
Troy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I'm
It's
still going to clarify.
concerning. Yeah,
Yep,
I
it is
mean, I
concerning.
think I did look into it, and I did kind of confirm that it was Ibrahim Traore
It was
when I
right.
first looked into it to double check, because as I said, I was rooting for him. So when I heard
Yeah.
that, and Baba Ndaka showed it to us, that one I had to rewind a few times. Yeah, my heart
Yeah.
dropped. So I'll be honest, but I
100%.
do want to say to the family as well that, you know, one thing that I do want to stress, especially I know with Nigeria, that military is definitely a way of life for a lot of people there because of their presence there for a long time. So a lot of people in Nigeria, for example, had gone to military school. The military is just a presence. It's kind of just, as we see primary school, secondary school, uni, college, the military is always within that kind of process within Africa. Military schools, joining military. It's a way to move throughout society. And I say that to say that although yes, it's concerning their link to military, they wouldn't really have a choice if these people are in your country. That's why we're here now. That's why they want them out. These people have been in their countries. Like Ibrahim Traore is only 34. So and I also want to mention as well is that we need to also realize that leaders such as Thomas Sankara were also led his revolution, and he came to power through a quote unquote coup, through the same process. And perhaps if we were to analyze his history at the point before we knew what a revolution, what kind of a revolutionary he would be, it would be a bit worrying as well, if that makes sense.
100%.
Right? So this and a great thing that also got said as well is that, you know, even other great leaders, some of our great leaders have gone through is it Kwame Nkrumah as well? They've had military influences throughout growing up. But the thing with, for example, Kwame Nkrumah, it just took one teacher that, you know, he had a teacher that chose to teach in a military way. He secretly showed his students the Pan-African ways, and that sparked in him as a young man to make him the great leader that he is now. So I'm saying to say, although the military, yes, we need to look at it level-headed and be weary of the military influence. That doesn't now just now we don't just condemn them because they've got military influence or military attached to them.
100%. I'm going to read a couple of questions. One of them was asked by our brother who has joined us. By the way, the link is in the chat, family. The link is in the chat. And just to inform you, we are in part 1. And so we want to remind you that part 2 is coming next week as we continue this conversation. And part 3 and 4 and 5 going to come the future. But for now, family, come next week, where we will be engaging our panel of veteran Pan-Africanists from around the world on these subjects and answering a lot of the questions that come out of the basic foundational information that Sister Kushti has provided for us this evening. So that's next week, Tuesday, beginning at 8 p.m. UK time, that which corresponds, hold on, let me get this correct now. This corresponds to 4 p.m. EST, because the clock go back, in a UK between now and then, all right? Daylight saving time, so we have to, legislate for these things, all right? So if you're across the waters, that's 4 p.m. And if you are in Lagos, that is 9 p.m. If you're in Lagos, Nigeria, that is 9 p.m. So everybody should be able to situate themselves, from there, because not everybody practices this thing called daylight saving time and all these things. But I promise you, you do not want to miss this breakdown and this exploration. Sister Kushti will be joining me to question our panel and get into the details and dissect the concerns and also the areas for optimism as we explore the dynamics of what is taking place in West Africa. So really, right now, we'll just give you a little taster, or you come next week, and assist me and Sister Kushti in grilling the panel, with all the hard questions that we are going to be asking them. All right. I'm going to come to you in a second, Imhotep. So stay tuned. I'm going to get to a couple of the questions that were being asked. You can ask a question from the chat also. Please at gotkushTV if you are going to choose to do so. Somebody has added Shakara, so I'm going to allow you, but please at gotkushTV in future because I nearly missed this. All right. Has Ruto of Kenya cancelled their criminal occupation of Haiti? Not that I'm aware of, although I don't believe that the occupation has commenced, but it is scheduled to. So as far as I'm aware, that is still on the cards, and I could be just out of the loop on the information. So if somebody is more up to date, then feel free to inform me otherwise. But we are going to be talking about this little more because this is a ridiculous development. And when I first heard about this, I said on a Zivanai some weeks ago that the only way this can really happen is if it is being funded by the West and particularly America. And lo and behold, that was indeed the case. This is a totally ridiculous development. But we're going to have to explore that on another show. Nama X also asks, the liberation fight of the 1960s and the last few years teach us that it's not hopeless to fight for liberation. We should be teaching each other that we must always fight. Goes on to ask how you feel about that. I agree. I agree. And that's what we're doing right here on gotkushTV. There's many ways to fight. And so this, with this particular platform and its development, we are developing the kind of media that allows us to engage in the liberation fight, with the propaganda that is necessary to do so. And so that's the reason why we have to dissect these dynamics, and we have to know what going on, in West Africa. And as Sister Kushti has laid some of the questions on the table, is this just the type of coup that we are used to seeing in West Africa? Is this, as the video that we just played calls into question, an American orchestrated dynamic? Or is this what we would want it to be? What our revolutionary optimism yearns for? Is this a true revolution, of the people, And so our guests next week are going to help us to answer those questions. I've got two good brothers joining me on the panel. One of them is a special... let me just greet them both. We'll get to them in order. Greetings, Imhotep over there in Trinidad.
Peace, God. Peace. Peace and
Greetings, bro.
everybody.
You know what I'm saying? Good to see you. Good to hear you. And also, Mr. Captain Scarlet is in the building.
Yes. Peace. Good thing. Bless up, big up, Christy. Yes, Shaka.
Greetings, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, you have to understand. You have to understand that Captain Scarlet is a legend about these parts. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So yeah, man. You know, you have to just, respect the thing and lay out the red carpet when certain man come through. All right. So all right. So I'm gonna go in order of appearance. By the way, in answer to Imhotep, your question in the chat, I am not sure about the answer to this question. It's an interesting question. But I'm not sure. So I'm gonna have to do some research on this. I'm trying to bring it up so people can read it. But it says gotkushTV are Goita and Keita regional versions of the same surname. And I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. But I guess we can find out. So let's do some research. I'm a man that love for research African names, yeah. So I'm gonna do some research and come back. But go ahead with your contribution to today's conversation, Imhotep.
All right. So, peace and Pan-African power, as usual, to everybody under the sound of my voice. I have to give sincere thanks to the sister Empress Christy for putting together her presentation and gracing us at her time and delivering it for us. I was just reading the Wikipedia about I too, even though I kind of shy away from using the word fan, I'm kind of a fan of Captain Traore. I enjoy listening to his speeches in the international arena. And so I too, whenever I hear about US, the familiarity or the intertwining with US foreign policy, it always kind of gives me some pause. But I was just reading the Wikipedia for Captain Traore, and it was suggesting that since a university student, he's been a Marxist, and was a delegate for the student body, defending students since a university student now. And I've noticed a lot of English-speaking media on YouTube, not like official media, just YouTubers and covering African news and that kind of stuff, have been referring to him as the new Sankara. I mean, I kind of don't want to put that on him because the brother Sankara,
big shoes.
But not so much that, but I mean the brother's end and what happened of his revolution. So I don't necessarily want to cast that spell on the new brother, but now
and also just in saying that there has been up to this point now 2 failed coup attempts on him
against him. Yeah. I do
so
remember.
your views are very well warranted for that.
But so I personally, of all of the revolutions, I mean, I can only pay very little attention. I don't speak French fluently, as well as I don't have what I consider to be reliable sources for African news, like contemporary African news. But at least from what I've been able to see thus far, at least Captain Traore seems to be the most genuine of the revolutionary leaders that we have in that, I think they call it the Alliance of Sahel States, because there's a new economic bloc, I think, that they're forming, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, called the Alliance of Sahel States. And when I heard about it, my mind started to play these games of, God, is this going to be another avenue for infighting among African leaders? But then I saw already that Traore had been elected the leader of, or appointed the leader of this alliance. So I don't know. Standing where I am in Trinidad at the moment, looking across the ocean at some of these things going on, I really dare to hope. If not that only maybe even that the militaries themselves may not be fully invested in this revolution, but it certainly seems like the populations themselves are rising up. Even like to speak of, just to go to, to just take it off of French West Africa for a second, but I'm noticing in Ghana, there seems to be a lot of political uprising at the moment. People seem to not have, in Nigeria, people seem to not have the kind of love for Tinubu. Obviously, he came to office in a kind of contested election. So it just seems like West Africa seems to be rising up. There is a wave going across West Africa of, I don't know if to necessarily say class consciousness, but anti-imperialist consciousness. So I'm just wondering, I really do dare to hope. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you for them contributions there. I am naturally an optimistic kind of brother. Yeah. But life has taught me to balance that in a healthy dose of right? So it's like I'm like you, and I'm like Kushti as well. Me want, you know, want to believe, you know what I mean? You know, but it can be. We have to be careful at the same time. At the same time, I have learned that Traore may. Two things have given me reason for some level of optimism. There's one is that Traore may have received some ideological training from a Pan-Africanist in Burkina Faso, whose name is slipping me at the moment, but is a disciple of Thomas
Is it
Sankara.
Apollinaire?
That may be the
Surname
case.
Tambela or Tambela.
Yes,
Surname Tambela.
that sounds that
Yeah,
sounds
so
like
he's I was literally just looking at him. He's the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso right now. I meant to mention it and I forgot, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yes. Okay, all right. So that's something to look into. We're gonna get into the dynamics of that next week even more. Yeah. And then the other thing is that as regards to Mali, because Mali was over a year ago, the leadership in Mali seems to have been enjoying significant popular support from the masses of the people in Mali. Yeah. Especially as against who was overthrown. Yeah. So that suggest and that popular support seems to have maintained itself. Yeah. To a significant degree. So that's something to also take note of in these dynamics. All right. So we're just putting that out there. Any responses, Sister Kushti?
Yeah, I think it's healthy to feel like that because of our history. But I'm going to go out on a limb right now and I'm going to say I'm in support. And I'm going to justify and I'm going to say why. Because all we can go through right now is the facts in front of us. And the facts are in front of us right now. And that doesn't mean that we don't have to change as times go on. But the facts in front of me right now, I'm seeing African leaders who are from the poorest parts of Africa standing up with chest. They're as you said before, the support is overwhelming on the ground. And you can just YouTube where you see seas. I'm not just saying a couple of people, seas of people who are protesting, happy the fact that these leaders have come into power and they're in full support as well. And as we know, Africa has got the highest amount of, it's got the youngest population. And since the union of the three nations that the brother just mentioned in the Sahel, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, the amount of young youths, aunties, uncles who have enlisted in their military has tripled. They're ready to fight if it's time to fight. When ECOWAS were doing sanctions on those countries, Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore said, well, we don't have much, but we'll share with you. It's not a problem. You've got people like Algeria and Mauritania who stepped in now and said, listen, we don't want a war on our land and we're against this. So you've got other countries now who have said to ECOWAS that we are not in support of this, even though they're not in ECOWAS. They're not in support of this, but they will support those three countries if it comes to it, if you try to invade. You've got people like Ibrahim Traore, who's doing a power plant to start processing his minerals in his own land. You've got these countries who have chucked out the French. Like I said, anything to do with France, they've chucked them out. They've chucked out their delegates. They've chucked out the language. I mean, from those facts in front of us now, I'm supporting that because that is, in my lifetime, the biggest strength that I've seen as an adult, honestly. And I'm going to support that and give them good vibrations until they mess up. But I honestly believe that before I speak, the people on the ground will speak. as well.
100%. One thing that I was also heartened by is that when Tinubu said I'm going to invade, because he gave the date of the 6th of Messiah, August,
Yeah.
to invade Niger, and apparently the people in Nigeria say, where I go with that? Yeah,
Yeah, they stopped him.
not enough it got so. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So that gave me a lot of heart as well. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That was gearing up to be a very, very dangerous situation.
Very problematic.
One that would have been extremely problematic and destabilizing. You know, even within the context of the fact that the region is already destabilized, but
Exactly.
you know, even further destabilizing. You know, for West Africa, and I don't think we would have experienced anything like that. Yeah, since the so-called post-colonial, more properly referred to as neo-colonial era, where you know a whole region gears up to just invade a nation in that kind of way. It's not a normal thing that just happens like that. So yeah.
And I just one thing that I want to add as well, because I'm not sure if I said it correctly, but it is Niger that has said that going forward now that you will buy gold at its market value. So instead
I
of
meant to correct it. You know, I believe it's the uranium. You know, not the gold. It's the uranium.
Is it uranium? Okay, sorry. Thank you for that, bro. So and they've said that it will be now marketed at they will be selling it at market value, which is $200 per unit instead of 80 cents.
Yes.
So these are strong things. I mean, even one of the things that I mentioned is enough for the West to deem that as war. So for these countries that are, again, the most poorest countries to stand up so strong, I have almost no choice but to support that thus far.
Yeah. No, I hear you, sis. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. I want to bring in our other brother who's joined us, Captain Scarlett. Come true, my brother.
Yes. Big up and blessed, and thank you for the compliment, man. Legend around these parts. That's definitely a big compliment. And
like you don't know that already. Like you don't know that already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, no, respect. I definitely look forward to coming back and engaging more often as the year progresses on and moving to the new year. But yeah, thank you. This one is a big show. I'm happy to hear there'll be a part 2 as well tomorrow. And so yeah, whenever I get the time to jump in, always.
No, not tomorrow. Next week, bro. Next week, Tuesday. Next week, Labor Day. Yeah, same time. Yeah, go ahead.
You go. Try to make you work 2 times in a row. But yeah, next. Looking forward to that. But yeah, great presentation from Kushti, and yeah. I don't want to bring the tone down, but our brother in Guinea Conakry. What are the thoughts on him? I know Kushni, you've expressed a few thoughts on this president and his wife and his previous allegiances to France. I guess my question is, what are your thoughts on him? And in particular, are you aware of any sort of his relationships with the other coup leaders, particularly Burkina Faso and Mali, and what the relationships are like between those countries? Is it supportive? Are they working together? Or is it a bit more distant? And actually, what's the relationship like in general in that region between those leaders?
Go ahead, Christy. Feel free to respond.
Bless up, bro, as well. Thank you for the compliment. President Mamade, I think initially when I saw his wife, you know, sported the African attire, becoming their first lady, it put me off a bit. When I looked into her backstory of having a role in the French police, again, didn't help. And then when I saw that his history of being within the Legion and pledging allegiance and being in one of the highest specialist forces that a person can be, who is not necessarily French, again, doesn't help. But like I said, there have been other leaders who have had possibly the same wife and have done great things. And I'm going to be having an open mind on him. I'm not saying I'm as excited with him as I am with Ibrahim Traoré or even Goita. But the things that he has said, especially in the UN, I think there was a UN summit recently, It was interesting that he was actually able to attend, but people such as Burkina Faso, he had to get somebody else to come in because he was blocked. Again, these kind of things make me weary when the West is so hard on certain countries like Niger, Burkina Faso, but then we hear nothing from the leaders from Gabon or Guinea. It makes me wonder why, because a coup is a coup is a coup. So I don't understand why there's no back force on this individual. But in the UN, he was making it clear. I mean, I think one of his famous speeches, we are not pro France, we are not pro US, we are not pro Russia, we are pro Africa. So again, when what he's saying and his words currently, they are aligning to what I want to hear. And with him saying that he is now going to be one of the countries as well that are trying to get the UN out, again, that's something I'm glad to hear. So putting away my personal bias of what I'd like to have seen as a wife, thus far, the brother is doing well.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I will say this: he doesn't seem to be as in relation to your alignment question. Guinea doesn't seem to be as aligned as Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are with each other. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
There seems to be far. Like we've heard talk of Mali and Burkina Faso creating a new state and collapsing the colonial border between them. Yeah. Say again?
We'll ask about that next.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we've heard about that. I haven't heard anything like that coming out of Guinea. And by the way, for all our Pan-African skeptics out there, hardcore skeptics, tune in next week, yeah, because trust me, yeah, what's it called? I know at least two of our guests are gonna give you heavy doses of skepticism as well to balance out, yeah, the optimism at the same time. All right, so there is two sides to this dynamic, and we don't want to give any illusions, yeah. Right, you know what I'm saying? No, at all, right? So we're gonna get into all of the different nuances, yeah, that require some of us to just be on the fence fully, and some of us to be cautiously optimistic, and some of us to be fully skeptical. Yeah, we're gonna get into everything, all right? So yeah, do stay tuned for that. But you said you had a follow-up vibration.
I think one point to add on that. Sorry, my bro. I think one point to add on what you said is I think that at one point when they were all training in regards to the military, they had all been around those. So they have been next to Burkina Faso and who was the other one? I can't remember the other one, but they have kind of been around the same. Like, so when we look at the dates, they've all been at similar places in regards to military training.
Yes.
So yeah. So the fact, would it be unrealistic to say they perhaps knew each other? No, they probably have been around each other through the base of the training and things like that. And now, fast forward, now they're each leaders of a revolutionary coup. So just to add that in there.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks. I agree with that. Definitely, and something I was actually going to say earlier, just off the back of that, is like it is actually kind of confusing to me, but at the same time, it's actually completely plausible in terms of when you're talking about all of these coups that happen. And actually, as you was going through the presentation, there's a lot more coups than even I recognized or realized had happened. Obviously, I've been more focused and more excited about some than others, and certain leaders than others. But yeah, I think through my understanding of international politics and military training, like you say, and the military camps that these people have been at, there definitely have been chances and opportunities for them to mingle and mix. I am interested to understand how much did France know or think about or ahead of it time within many of these militaries, and how difficult it would have been for them in different areas to actually have that full knowledge. I think sometimes we look at MI6 and secret services and some of these agencies as being almost omnipresent and omnipotent. Like they know everything prior to things happening, and I think actually that they rely on that quite a lot. I think quite a lot of people might have done things had they believed that they actually had the opportunity to do it, rather than believing that the these secret services were more powerful. So I think that plays a big role to it. And I think that, yeah, there probably were conversations and communication with some of these leaders at training camps prior to this, and that's going to go on now. And in terms of like the redrawing of borders, I think that's fascinating, but I also think that's also a difficult one. So Niger and Mali in particular, obviously historically, they share similar empires of the past, from Songhai to Mali, etc. Similarly, Burkina Faso, but maybe a little bit less friendly at times with the but I'm glad to see that they're on friendlier terms now. So I think that is actually a fascinating thing. But I guess the big thing that usually comes and came about the last time when we had a big moment of Pan-African leaders and revolution in post-independence was people worry about losing their power, right? You give up your borders, who's going to become the president after that? Which one of these leaders get to take over? Who becomes dominant? Who falls behind? That's all a big question, and that also does lead to people, although maybe at the beginning being like, yes, we're going to bring down these borders, when they realize, oh, I might not be the leader, decide to hold on to those borders and to pass power. Do you think that's a possibility within this situation today?
No, you know what it is? I think that obviously from a classical Pan-African perspective, we have always considered these colonial, and the need to get rid of them has been and or redraw them has been one of the ongoing conversations, yeah. And so I think now when we look at the post-colonial era during the 1960s and 70s, one of the major critiques that people have had, even of that generation and following, I can even think of Sheikh Anta Diop in his book Black Africa. One of his major critiques is that basically the regions were trying to develop regional economic bodies without political bodies, yeah, that didn't respect the colonial borders. So I don't think that collapsing the border is a one size fits all or an automatic revolutionary act, but given what we have seen since the 1960s till now, the fact that that question has been raised, yeah, is very interesting for me, because we haven't heard that kind of a conversation, especially from heads of states, since probably Nkrumah. You know what I'm saying? So it does pique my interest, you know, and you're right. The fact that they openly had that conversation does suggest that either some power sharing or some knowledge of the fact that, yes, somebody's gonna have to give up some power here, as far as being a head of state for this to work. It's obvious that somebody must be conscious of that, right? So yeah, going into it with that mentality just makes it very interesting to me. I'm not even optimistic or skeptical about it. I'm just saying I've not heard that conversation, and it's because of that it's very interesting for me.
Yeah, I've not actually heard. What do you mean by collapsing of borders? What do you mean?
Basically, forming a new state that consists of what is today Mali and Burkina Faso.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
I thought that
yeah, I was just gonna answer brother Scattered. I think I've not, from my research, I've not heard them talk about collapsing borders as yet. I think they're all, and we've got to remember as well, that's why I wanted to put that in, is that they have currently got along with dealing with the French, they've also got the jihadist problem as well, which especially in Mali, they are literally like, if you look at the videos that are coming from there, they're literally fighting them. I mean, they're quite recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Traore was out with them, right? Like, he's a proper revolutionary, like fighting with them, right? So you got to remember that not only are they now chucking out the French, they're doing infrastructure, real tangible things, like building power plants, which is going to have so much wealth come into there. You've got Niger saying that we will now charge you market rate. Can you imagine from 80 cents to 200 per unit? And in regards to the borders, I'm not worried about that as yet, because I don't think that they're even at that point as yet. And that's what I like about these leaders. It's not idealist. They're doing things that need to be done now, and they're doing a lot of things for such a pressured country. And one of the things in regards to holding on to power, because I don't think that the border is an issue yet, because I've not even heard them talk about that. So I don't want to put that on them. I think they all respect each other individually as leaders, and there is an alliance. And each leader has said that they're willing to give up to democracy vote between 2 to 3 years. And I've even heard people say that, for example, Ibrahim Traore, he's talking about staying in for 4 years. He's a dictator. But if we look back in history, it took Thomas Sankara 4 years to change his country. We have to give these people a chance. If you're dealing with all of the things that I've mentioned, dealing with the French, dealing with jihadists, and they're still willing to do a democracy vote, we're saying that, okay, after 3 years, we'll give a vote to our own people and they can choose who their leaders is, gives me faith, because again, we don't hear that kind of rumblings from previous leaders once they're in, like what I was talking about with Ali Bongo. 56 years him and his family were in power for. That's what we're used to. So if we're hearing revolutionary leaders saying that I'm doing this, I'm kicking the French out, I'm on the ground fighting these jihadists, and I'm also building up infrastructure, and I'm willing to implement a real democracy where the people can choose if I'm in or not, is to me, again, is positive. You could kind of see what's side of the fence I'm sitting here, but yeah, to me, this is all positive.
I get it. We need some wins and some optimism in this time. So it's it's all a part of the process. I think, Scott, you're trying to say something, and I'm gonna read an article on this issue of federation in a second. But go ahead.
Okay, cool. I'll try not to make it too long. Yeah, but yeah, definitely sit on that fence. Yes, be proud on that side. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think actually you make a good point actually when you say that not to get too ahead of ourselves with the border. Like you said, Shaka, it's good that they've even had that conversation, but it's not one probably for now. And for now is probably more those practical steps. And I suppose that there's several different threats for all those countries and some similar ones. So as you say, in Mali, they have a massive issue in terms of the jihad in the north. And not just jihad in the north, but separatism in the north. I mean, some of that sort of the Islamist threat in the north isn't just born out of sort of offshoots of Al Qaeda and ISIS, although some of that is in it. Some of that is long-standing feelings from the Amazigh tribes within that area who feel like, they want their own country and their own nation. And so that's a whole thing for that Mali we might have to deal with at some stage. Especially, and that might even come in that sort of redrawing of borders conversation as well. And outside of that is 100%. It sounds very good, and I'm down with that whole. Yeah, we're gonna not really be doing this thing with thing anymore with France anymore. We're gonna be charging them $200 for the uranium, but that puts. I mean, energy prices already here in the UK is tough. Can't heat the home too tough right now, and it's all winter to us. Because heating is expensive, and French people now French people are notorious for protesting and getting mad when bills and stuff go up in their country. And so if they have to spend that much money on their uranium now, their bills almost inevitably will go up, which will cause knock-on effects in France and Europe. Our bills will go up as well.
That's a good thing to me, though, and I'm saying that as somebody who lives in London, who probably would be affected by that in some way, shape, or form as well.
I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, but I'm saying how will these countries respond, because they're going to have to satisfy their.
I agree. I agree. But why I say it's a good thing though is because I think people underestimate, especially us who live in like Paris and London, underestimate the extent to which these nations rely on African resources.
Absolutely. We're comfortable because of them.
Right. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it would be a wake up call, even for many Africans living in these places, yeah, for Noah Guan. At the same time, oh, let me just clarify the point though, because it did come out, and I was trying to remember when it was, but I remember it was soon after the Burkina Faso situation. But there is an article published by Al Jazeera. It was one article. Activists do Bamako Ouagadougou walk. So Bamako, Mali, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, capital cities, yeah. What am I saying now? To urge Mali, Burkina Faso union. The prime ministers of Mali and Burkina Faso say they will examine the idea of creating a federation, yeah. And this was published in March of this year. Okay, so that conversation, did take place. It was put out there, but I haven't heard anything about it since then. I'm just saying it's a very interesting conversation because I've not heard anything like that prior to. You know what I'm saying? Or let's say for a while. Yeah. So you one of them wants to check that out if they need to. Sorry,
I
King.
wondered, brother.
Say again?
I wondered if the Alliance of Sahel States wasn't effectively a collapsing of the, well, maybe not effectively, but as in the first step to collapsing the borders, if they're doing internal and external defensive pacts, against internal rebellion and
Yeah, I agree. It would be a gradual thing, and again, that's something that I've not heard of for a while either. The last time again we heard of that was when Nkrumah was talking about we needed one military high command for the African continent, yeah, for defense purposes, right? So these kinds of military pacts have not existed, and it's interesting because of if you understand anything about militaries in Africa and the Caribbean. More often than not, they act as extensions of the police force. Yeah. In ways that you wouldn't find in a nation like Britain. Yeah. And so that was again another interesting development. Like, we are going to band together to fend off a Western invasion effectively. This is not what we're used to hearing, yeah, from African leaders, yeah. We're used to hearing things more like, although even this is novel, but things more like what Kenya's trying to do now. We're going to send troops go Haiti, yeah, you know what I'm saying, with American funding. It's nonsense. Anyway, that's another subject for another time. We're going to come back to Haiti on another show. Family, we are going to close in the next 5-10 minutes. If you do want to join the conversation, come ask a question, make a comment, add to the information before we break it down again and in greater detail next week. Feel free to join the conversation. This is the last time I'm going to share the link in the chat. You can also ask a question from the chat by @ing gotkushTV. So please @gotkushTV if you want to make a comment and or have your comment read or your question read out from the chat. All right. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in from wherever in the world you have tuned in from, and want to remind you again to come through next week as me and Sister Kushti are going to be interacting with Brother Leader Bandaka, Auntie Afiyong El Afiyong, and also Brother Sekou Kele. Yes, very noted Pan-Africanist from around the world. And yeah, so this is like, let's say this is the English speaking edition, and we're going to interact with our French speaking brothers and sisters in the weeks and months to come.
With translation.
With translation, everything, yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're not ramp inside. Trust me, one of our missions, yeah, as Pan-African media, and one of our goals as Pan-African media in the 21st century has to be to cross the colonial language barrier and negate it. Okay? Cross the colonial language barrier and negate it. We cannot allow colonial languages to stop us from communicating in this day and age. Yeah. So through our media, we have to make sure that we do that. And more of us, as much as we are geared and dedicated and prioritizing the learning of African languages, more of us have to become proficient in at least one other colonial language as well. Yeah. Simply for practical purposes. So we're going to hopefully manifest that on gotkushTV. Go ahead, Kushti.
Thank you, my bro. I just wanted to refer to a comment and also ask a question to the family on the panel and in the chat as well, just before you go. So Nama X said, we need to discuss what voting actually means, fam. Before they let people vote. They need to make laws and rewrite constitutions to prevent new leaders from selling the country out to Europeans again. And that is absolutely true. And Nama, I did go through that most of the leaders that we've mentioned have done that. And this is what I'm saying, what makes me so proud of what I'm seeing thus far. It's not just some wild, headless, gun-tooting with an army jacket on, like they like to refer to us. These are serious people. They seem to be very intelligent. Most of them have already wrote their constitution, which has wrote a new constitution which prevents exactly what you have said. So you'd be pleased to see that many of them have done that as well. My next question is, how does the family feel in regards to Russia and Russia's link?
It's sticky, it's sticky, because
well, politically, I'm a leftist, so I always have a kind of soft spot in my heart for the beginning of some of the leftist ideologies in the current day stemming from Russia, But
this is the thing, right? Okay, there's two things here, yeah. And by the way, we hosted Kemi Seba in April of this year, and we are going to be broadcasting his message to us in London, probably in December, yeah. So
brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully we're gonna get that. Sister Kushti was in the house, as was Captain Scarlett. You know what I'm saying? No, he was. Yeah, he was there in it, Taga.
Yeah, he was.
He was there. What's it called? Yeah. So, yeah, man, we're gonna be broadcasting that soon. But one of the things that he did say is that many brothers and sisters are coming to the events of his organization, Urgence Pan-Africaniste, waving the Russian flags, and he's saying, we're supposed to be waving our own flag, yeah, red, black, and green, with some gold, right? You know what I'm saying? So we have to be mindful of that sensibility. I think Kushti's point in terms of we don't want to be making Russia our saviors is an essential point, yeah. And to whatever extent we engage with Russia, know that Russia is engaging us for its own interests, yeah.
Absolutely.
And so we have to be strategic in terms of how we relate to Russia, based upon our own interests and from a position of power. Yeah. At the same time, there is some concern about the extent to which the absence of a French military presence is being replaced by a Russian one. Yeah. I have whisperings about that, and I think that would be a very precarious position to be in. Yeah. In terms of Russia. Russian military assistance is one thing, financial assistance is one thing, but Russian military presence is another. Yeah. So, but these are things we're gonna have to get. Sorry, go on, Imhotep.
Oh no, I just said right. Yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But I will say though, remember it's Wagner, and Wagner's an independent missionary group, right? If you've got the money, they will come and do a service for you. And
100%, but they're also a mercenary organization. That's the part I'm making. Wagner, you can't listen. Wagner is very, you know what I mean. Putin is one, but Wagner is the next thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and when his sister says missionary, I think I don't know if you mean that they are missionary, like a religious proselytizing group, or you really do just mean mercenary, as in like a army for hire.
Yeah, I mean mercenary, army for hire.
Okay.
That's what Wagner is known for, infamously. And so, so I think that with them understanding that they asked France not once, not twice, not 3 times to get out, and it was such a struggle to get them out, and also aware of what they're dealing with. So the attacks from the jihad and everything else, they're going to be stretched. So using it as a service, I don't have a problem with. And I think that's why I'm always very cautious in the language that I use in regards to Russia, because I know how it could be twisted.
I get you. Yeah. I think what you say about the material circumstances on the ground is a very real issue. Yeah, like in the sense of the resources to withstand a Western invasion kick out the French military. I haven't heard any talk about kicking out Africa, but should that become an issue, you know, that these armies are much more well resourced, yeah. And so they require some a balance in terms of the material reality, right? I get that, yeah, I get that. And it is something that it is a problem to be solved, so to speak. I understand those dynamics.
Yeah.
I am simply saying that we cannot trust Wagner. Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Right?
Especially
You know
with
what I'm
their
saying?
recent history.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So we can't, right? And so once they get in, it's very difficult to get a force like that out. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So we have to be very, very careful with them dynamics there. And I'm saying that,
especially
agreeing with everything that you're saying in terms of the material difficulties, yeah, on the ground of the different fronts that have to be fought militarily and what needs to be protected. It's a very real consideration, yeah. And we're going to get into this even deeper with our panel next week. So I want to make sure everybody comes through, because these are very real dynamics. And sometimes, you know, Pan-African, or let's say not even just Pan-African, but ideological purity comes up against material realities and strategies within that context, and we have to negotiate, yeah, those realities. I feel like Captain Cascada had something to say. I may be wrong, but let me just check with him. We're going to close up soon.
Oh no! I was just trying to go off mute, and I pressed the wrong thing and come out of the whole thing.
Okay.
But was it? Yeah, I remember the question. I'll respond, but yeah, no, I'm cool for now.
All right, cool. So yeah, but like I said, we're gonna get into that next week, yeah. So we're gonna save the deep analysis on Russia, yeah, and we're gonna put that to brother leader Bandaka, Auntie Affiong, and brother Sekou, yeah, and dissect all the permutations, yeah, therein as it regards to Russia. And all of these things, all right. You know what I'm saying? We get it. And by the way, I also want to say Putin is a very, very intelligent and strategic political player. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And we don't want to underestimate that neither. All right, kings and queens. So I'm gonna give everybody a last word. So Captain Scarlet, last word.
Yeah, big show, man, and yeah, hopefully everything goes for the best with our West African comrades over there. As you say, yeah, I think a weather wouldn't is definitely necessary in regards to Russia and to Wagner and to how those organizations operate. But as you were saying, notwithstanding the need for um, an interim while there's military training and progression, of course, within those countries.
Give thanks for that. Imhotep.
Yes, as always, peace and Pan-African power to everybody. I think the uprisings, the revolutions in West Africa kind of underscore something you said before, which is that we Pan-Africanists really do need to familiarize ourselves with some of these other colonial languages so that we can keep abreast with what is going on in the language, and we don't have to rely on legacy media to translate some of these speeches of some of these gentlemen for ourselves. But as your brother said, yeah, big show. I really appreciate you and the sister Empress gotkushTV for putting it together for us.
Give thanks, Imhotep, give thanks, Captain Scarlet. I'm gonna put you both in the back as we begin to close the show. Any last words from you, Kushti?
Yeah, I'd just say it was a pleasure doing this presentation for the family. I try to be neutral, but I think everyone's got a kind of idea of where I'm coming from on this. And I'm going to do it unapologetically, which is very brave ahead of the panel next week. So make sure you be there, because not everybody's going to be as hopeful and optimistic as I. But 100. I will, but I hope I've given the basis for people and the family out there to have the confidence to really look in there, do your research, go onto these social medias. A lot of the people on the ground are using socials such as TikTok, YouTube, things like that. So for once, we could use these socials to get some real first-hand accounts of what's going on the ground. And it's great to know that in our lifetime, we could be witnessing a real revolution. And we want to be on the right side of history with this. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for indulging me, family, and bearing with me and being so supportive as I do this presentation with my optimistic and excited self as a revolution of free Africa or France. Yeah. I better do it all now before the next week panel. Let me get it all out now.
Get it all out, sis. Get it all out, you know. Yeah, get it all out, you know, before everybody can rain on your parade. What's it called? You know what I mean? All right, get it all out. Yes. But sis, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for loving us so much. Yeah, to be inspired to put that work together, just to explain Wagwan. Yeah. And no doubt we'll be hearing more from you. It's a pleasure to have hosted you, and it's a pleasure. It will be a pleasure to be hosting with you next week. And it's necessary, yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you know, like you're saying, there are a lot of dynamics here, yeah, that require us to be optimistic and to be skeptical, and so it's necessary for us to ask all of the questions, yeah, from all of the dynamics. And so thank you so much, yeah, for giving our people and our viewers that basic understanding. And I've seen that brothers and sisters have gotten a lot from it. And so we are very well prepared now. We are very well prepared to get deeper into the conversation next week. I do want to say this, however, yeah, I do want to say this. Wherever our thoughts on the people at the helms of these coups, maybe revolutions, yeah, that are taking place at the moment, what should not be in question for any of us is the fact that our people in French-speaking Africa have been organizing and rising up against their neo-colonial leadership and the French neo-colonial project in these nations for quite some time, yes, for at least a decade, yeah, and it not done yet. Things are going on in a Senegal, things are going on in a Congo, things are going on in a Cote d'Ivoire, things are going on in a Togo, in a Chad. Thank you very much, sis. Yeah. So bear in mind that this is bigger than even the 4 to 5 nations that we are discussing here right about now. And so this is just a window into what our people on the ground in these nations are doing. Yes, to whatever extent any of these leaders are going to be successful, they are building and standing on the shoulders of activists in their nations who have been on this from long before them come out with any coup. Yeah. And so our faith should always be in the people. Okay. Our faith should always be in the people, particularly those who are actually organizing on the ground. And so as we develop our reach into our various African nations and nations in the Caribbean, we are going to be bringing the voices of activists on the ground even more, yes, through these platforms, yeah. And so we hope to be doing so. And yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? And obviously through our brothers and sisters in Agence Panafricaniste, and there's another organization that I know of that has branches in Burkina Faso and in Mali. Yeah, the people that walked are called the Walkers for African Unity. They did the march from Mali to Burkina Faso. Yeah, and so there's that. I'm going to be bringing on a sister called Farida soon. Yeah, who's an activist from Togo. Yes. At some point in the next few weeks, I'm definitely going to bring her on at some point in the next few weeks. She was actually gonna join us for our show last week on the Grenada Revolution, but was unable to do so. But we're gonna bring her on to talk about Togo, yeah, soon. All right, so do stay tuned for that. That's where we're going with this, kings and queens. We have to cross the colonial language barrier and get to know what's happening in the African world. And so once again, we appreciate you, Sister Kushti, for getting us started in this conversation, and we're gonna appreciate you even more for helping us to continue the conversation with our guests next week. Yeah, so we truly appreciate you. I want to remind brothers and sisters that tomorrow is the final in the series of Sankofa, the future of Black history. And our presentation will be delivered by the brother Asar Imhotep. Yeah, the brother Asar Imhotep. Quantum field theory as African heritage. Once again, quantum field theory as African heritage. We're going to get into the quantum realm. Yeah, tomorrow, family. Tomorrow evening UK time, 7 p.m. UK time, which corresponds to 2 p.m. EST. You can find out all information and registration at gotkushTV.com. gotkushTV.com for all information. gotkushTV.com. Special shout out to Black History Walks. Black History Walks is our sponsor for Sankofa, the future of Black history. And so you can find Black History Walks information at blackhistorywalks.co.uk, kings and queens. So we want to make on know that's all the thing there. Tune in next week. Finally, once again, where we will be joined, myself and Sister Kushti will be joined by Brother Leader Bandaka, Afiyong El Afiyong, Sekou Kele, to delve into this in greater detail and to learn Wagwan, some of the background information that we need, some of the relationship between the leaders and the West, some of the relationship between those leaders and their people and other Pan-African organizations, all of these dynamics and permutations, kings and queens, we're going to be exploring next week. So do tune in. It not done yaso. Set your notification now. You can check out the video now. Go on gotkushTV and set your reminder from now. Yeah, you don't want to miss it. And we're going to make sure that you get all the information that you need leading up to that as well, kings and queens. All right. So stay tuned. 10 Mwari. Be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahode, African power and African liberation for all African people. Share.
gotkushTV presents Sankofa, the future of Black history, a unique Black History Month online series exploring all dimensions of time as we chronicle the Black past, command the Black present, and empower the Black future. Workshops include The Future is Black. Why is Black history under attack? With Shakara, We Create Value, the ingenuity of enslaved Africans. With Robin Walker, Ancestral Coding, Agriculture, and the Opobo Library Initiative. With Aya Eleli, Quantum Field Theory as African Heritage. With Asar Imhotep. For full information, including dates and registration, visit gotkushtv.com. We have made history. We are making history. There is history still to be made. Sankofa, the future of Black history. A Black History Month series not to be missed.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi